It's not even moving. Isn't that awful? Isn't that awful? I feel like it gets worse every single week. It's just...
Yeah, but I know why. I can understand why.
Oh, that's just
that was
awful.
Perfect.
Oh my God! Well, welcome in everyone to episode 5. Episode 5. We had some stuff going on last week, some travel, some work stuff, so weren't able to get episode 5 out last week. But we are here today. We have a slam-packed agenda. We've got our week 14 and 15 trifecta. Just an update on some key injuries. Week 16 preview, which as a lot of us know, for many, I'd say 99% of our leagues, it is semi-playoffs for fantasy. So week 16 is possibly the most important week of the season.
Oh, absolutely. This is when you're trying to go through and you got your people who started off and got positions 1 and 2. They got their buys, and this is when people who are just scraping into the playoffs trying to move on to the next round.
These are those 7 and 7 people who just broke even and just happened to get into the playoff contention, which wasn't me.
Excuse me, Ty. I was 6 and 8. I just happened to have the most points. Okay.
I didn't make playoffs in any of my leagues, okay? And I'm at 4, all right? Oh, and let me tell you this. So I drafted for one of our friends. I'm not going to name any names, but I drafted for one of our friends, and she literally has every player out last week and this week. She has C.J. Stroud, Josh Jacobs, Damian Pierce. I mean, it's insane. Garrett Wilson, and it's just so funny. Somehow she beat her opponent by 3 points, and somehow is in the semifinals now with all those people. You got Stroud, who's still in the concussion protocol. Josh Jacobs, questionable to come back. I mean, it's just so funny. This is the most important week, and she's thinking of starting
really
Joe Flacco. That's how crazy it is.
But I'm in one league, and I'm going to be starting Jake Browning.
Yeah, I mean, that's how crazy these injuries are, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But all right, why don't we kick it off with our Week 14 trifecta? Let's move on to that. Give you a flavor of how we thought Week 14 panned out. We're not going to go through it all, but just we're going to go through our trifecta this week. So my first trifecta is my surprise, and my surprise last week was actually someone who I didn't really expect, and that's Tyjae Spears. And Tyjae Spears, he had a great week. Now, Derrick Henry was out for a majority of the game, which is why Tyjae Spears took over. I mean, he had 7 carries for 29 yards, but reception-wise, 6 receptions, 89 yards against Miami. Surprise of the week. We always think King Henry is going to get it done, but Tyjae got it done when Henry was out.
Tyjae.
Oh, Tajee looks electric out there, I gotta say. I mean, when he actually is going through, he catches the ball well, he moves real quick. I think he's gonna be a real hot person to take next year. But I mean, I gotta say, I think I had a really good surprise last week too. Josh Palmer. I mean, he kind of came back, and it was basically just lights out. He ended up basically going through and had 21 points. I'm seeing here. Over 100 yards. I mean, absolutely wild.
Coming back off injury too.
Yeah, and again, when you have no one else to throw to, that's really it. That's, I guess, all you can really get. All you're going to have to do.
And then for my surprise of the week, I got Jake Browning. It looks like he is.
Wait, can we pause?
Yes, I want to restart this too.
Thank you, Mike, because you said Josh Palmer, and that's week 15, bro.
Dude,
that's not week 14.
I didn't put Josh Palmer. There's no fuck. Dude, Jordan, you changed my pick. Jordan, you changed my pick.
Did I?
You wrote Josh Palmer. I had literally in a comment, running back 1. You changed my pick.
Oh, Mike, what was your real surprise? Give it to us.
Running back 1
I don't
of
know
last.
how that happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
What the hell, Jordan? What the?
Listeners, for those of you who don't know, we do use a Google Doc in order to work with our agendas. And
Can we start this over?
No, keep going. This is gold.
Far from gold. Basically, just caught me going on a complete lie here.
Yeah, you totally lied.
Totally lied, but you know what? That's
bullshit
fine.
Detector was going
I'm
on.
calling bullshit, Mike.
You should be calling bullshit. Anyway, my actual surprise running back, my actual surprise of the week. I'm sorry for lying to all of you folk. It was
One.
actually for Week 14. Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
Off, right? So, first thing happens, Ramondre Stevenson goes down. What does Zeke do? Steps in, 22 carries, 68 yards, gets another 7 receptions for another 72 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he had 8 targets, caught 7 of them. He had over 100 yards, over 130 yards of just from the line of scrimmage, and basically just got a touchdown on top of that. PPR formats, he dominated.
Back to my surprise of the week, Jake Browning.
Moving on.
Now I got to worry about all my picks. Thank you.
No, they're good. You're good. So, Jake Browning, he did play well week 13, but he kept it up, got 24.7, only 1 point less. I just wasn't sure if he was going to continue to cook in Cincinnati. He does have the weapons, but it seems like that offense still is generating without Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jake Browning is surprising us all. I think he's still an asset. He's not Joe Burrow, but he's getting it done. In Week 14, he got it done. My consistent of the week, and even though we haven't seen the huge numbers, my consistent of the week is David Montgomery. He still put up over 10 points in Week 14. He's always going to get you an average, no matter what. It's average or above. His lowest score game this year was a 3.8 against Tampa Bay, who's got a great rush defense, and he still continues to get it done. One game less than 10 points, and it's been really a great season for him. Great overall ad. Worried that the Jamal Williams wasn't going to be able to be replaced, and it looks like he's replacing him with flying colors.
Absolutely. And one thing I love about David Montgomery, I actually thought he was going to be more one of those guys that had to have a touchdown. He is not touchdown dependent. He's still getting some targets. He's getting some receptions, and he's getting that workhorse role. And he's still putting up, past couple weeks, he's over 5 yards a carry. But someone else who I thought is my consistent of the week, going to the one wide receiver position, who may have been a rookie, which a lot of people saw coming. I'll admit I didn't, just because of the team and their recent success with drafting wide receivers, but Zay Flowers is looking pretty special. Zay Flowers, he's had some real good weeks, but since Mark Andrews has gone down, 2 consecutive weeks in weeks 12 and 14, 13 was a bye, where he had 8 targets, he had put up some good numbers, and then he also got that ever so sweet touchdown, over 20 points in each of those weeks.
Yep.
Man, okay. Zay Flowers, he's been doing much better since Mark Andrews went down. That's a big part of it. I chose my consistent of the week, as painful as this one was, as a Giants fan. But I went with CeeDee Lamb just because I feel like, I don't have him on my team personally, but if you look at how he's been playing all season long, I'm definitely not disappointed. I drafted him. If I did draft him, he's I'm confident playing him going into the last couple of weeks of the season as well.
Yeah, CeeDee's been impressing me. I didn't expect him to be this high. I didn't put much draft capital into him, and he's been showing all the haters wrong. Like
Right.
I wish I'd picked him up because he was. I think he might have been a second round or third round pick, maybe longer in some leagues. But definitely didn't expect this from Dak. Definitely didn't expect it from CeeDee.
Yeah, they've been worth wherever you drafted them, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you got CD in the first round, he's been stealing you the past 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
My disappointment, unfortunately, I am very disappointed. I really want more from this wide receiver, but it's Josh Downs. Josh Downs, he came out swinging, right? So the first couple weeks, he was performing really well. He had some games, 21 points in some leagues, 5 receptions, 125 yards, week 7. But since week 8, where he had 7 receptions and 72 yards, he hasn't really done anything. And, especially considering that, Gardner Minshew is a heavy passer, I'm surprised Josh Downs has not been used. I'm disappointed that he hasn't been used, and I really want more from him. Hopefully coming up this week against Atlanta, we might see him come into play with Pittman questionable, but just very disappointed overall.
Yeah, I agree. He hasn't really gotten a whole lot of targets either. I mean, really, that was what was driving him, right? From Minshew, he was just getting a lot of targets and a lot of receptions. It was more a PPR format where you'd play him. But hopefully he turns it around. I'm going to move over to the running back position for mine as well. I had a guy where basically I thought he was really going to start taking off again. Jonathan Taylor was out, and we already saw that once this season. Basically, JT goes down, and Zach Moss, he just stepped right up, had a whole bunch of real solid games. I think 4 in a row over 20 points or right around it, at least averaging. And this time around, he just hasn't been getting it done. Week 12, 13, I know it was slower, so I really thought week 14 he would turn it around against Cincinnati, which did not have as good of a run defense as Tampa Bay and Tennessee in weeks 12 and 13. I expected Cincinnati to be basically just basically Swiss cheese for him. He was just going to run all through. He did not.
No.
13 carries and only 28 yards. He did catch the ball a bunch, but not enough. Only got you maybe 10 points, depending on your format.
That's my fear with Zach Moss. If you have him rostered, is he does have very good weeks, and usually he has a good week. But every once in a while, he just puts up a dud.
Yeah, Mike, and I'm surprised with the matchup being what it was. I thought Zach Moss was going to run through this team and, really be a big performer, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
I chose for my disappointment of the week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, which I'm even sad I had to put him. He just, with 2.1 fantasy points, wasn't really cooking that week. And, you expect more from Amon-Ra at this point in, I think it was his worst week of the season.
Yep.
He is putting up a top 10 campaign, so it was just a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, he's ranked number 6 right now in wide receivers. So he definitely, you got your money's worth, but last week, the whole Detroit Lions team just, didn't really perform where you wanted them to against the Chicago Bears.
And you don't want that to happen during fantasy football playoffs, unfortunately, from a top 10 typical receiver.
Well,
yeah,
that's rough.
That he might have lost people leagues. I think, honestly, like Josh Downs, I don't know if he was rostered as much. I don't know if I actually put him in. I was just disappointed. Zach Moss definitely, could have lost you a semi-playoff spot.
At that point, absolutely, because you're expecting him to take over for a running back you probably lost previously. Yeah, you're expecting.
Right, if you were on the fence of making it into the playoffs or not in Week 14, these guys might have been a bit of a dud. Bad time to happen.
Yeah, but we got through that. Nice.
That's at least Week 14.
That's Week 14. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go into Week 15 trifecta. And we are going to.
All right.
We are going to kick it off with my Week 15 trifecta surprise, and I gotta go with Ty Chandler. I mean, I think people expected him to maybe not fulfill in the shoes that Madison's leaving with his injury, but Ty Chandler really, really put in the work. He did what needed to get done, and he got it done in Week 15. I was very, very surprised. I expected a few points. I didn't expect a touchdown for sure. And, there he was with a touchdown, 132 rushing yards, 25 receiving yards. I mean, he got it done. And, it's like we were talking about with Zach Moss. You thought he was going to run through the Cincinnati defense, and Ty Chandler was actually able to. And he looks good. He has juice. He is fast. And I want to see more of him. He surprised me, and I hope we keep getting him.
That's my question, Tyler. How you feel? He's in your surprise category. Moving forward, you trusting him in the playoffs? Is this a thing?
Depends on Madison coming back. If Madison comes back,
I agree. I think you actually do play him as long as Madison's out. If Madison's out, I don't think he gets the volume. But if Madison is out, he's going to get the volume, and you play him.
Yeah, the only thing is Week 16, which is semi-playoff week. It's a tough matchup for the Vikings. The Lions' defense has a pretty good rush defense. So you know what I'm predicting? He's going to be utilized way more in the air, even though it's Nick Mullins at quarterback. But I'm hoping we see another surprise.
Yeah, I'm hoping so
Mike.
too. And I really do like the Tyler Chandler effect. I mean, Tyler Chandler, really, there's been a few of those undersized running backs who are just super speedy with 4.4 speed. I mean, you got Ty Chandler, you got Keaton Mitchell. He's in the same category. Devon Chain. Yeah, well, and we'll get to him in a moment. But, I mean, you just got 3 of those guys, right? Blazing speed. They come into the league. They take it by storm because they just find that hole. But going to my surprise here, I'm going to go with the wide receiver 1 on the week. I know I did not see it coming from I really didn't see it coming from him, especially after the number 1, the actual alpha of the offense, came back from injury. Jordan Addison had himself a week, boys. I mean, literally, he had six targets, caught every single one of them for over 100 yards, 111 yards, and two tutties. Like, what is it? I know, as a guy who literally has been on this podcast saying, don't play Addison, I felt like a fool because I figured, how could you play him? You're literally getting Justin Jefferson back. He's getting all the targets. Nah, Jordan Addison is clearly still part of this offense.
Yeah, and that was even with Nick Mullins, who you really didn't expect much from him.
Yeah, you never know which way it's going to go. Sometimes, for example, when Amari Cooper left the Cowboys, my question was, is CeeDee Lamb going to see a decline? Because now the defense focuses more on him. You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it benefits your fantasy points to be number 2.
Yep.
My surprise of the week, Sam Laporta. He had his best week of the season. He's been having a great season as it is, but I just didn't expect him to put up 23 points. He's only hit 20 points once this season before, but he, I believe, is now in first in terms of average. He's knocked out TJ.
He's number 1. He's number 1 on the position, and last game he got 3 tutties.
Yeah, he's number 1 in it. So yeah, he's having a hell of a season. Definitely someone I'm looking to pick up next year, and someone I'm playing the rest of the season.
You do not take him out of your lineup. Do not ever take him out of your lineup.
No, never.
He might put up more points if he's injured.
Moving on to my consistent, and I think this one might surprise you guys a little bit. I kind of thought outside the box when I was going with this one. But my consistent of Week 15, it was the Browns defense. And, it's one of those positions and I guess fantasy players, where you don't expect a consistent play. But the Browns, especially the defense, the Browns are such an asset to have. I think I've started them every week because every week you get, at least 5 points. They've had one game this season where they were negative points, and that was against the Rams. But most of the season, their average points on the season is about 10, and that's for a defense that's really good. They're actually ranked number 3 in defense. Take it for what you will, but they were my consistent. I like having them on my team.
And you know what? They're going to keep producing at a consistent rate because look at this coming up through the playoffs. They're playing in Week 16. They're playing Houston. That's without C.J. Stroud, as far as I'm concerned right now, because he still hasn't returned to practice and he's still in concussion protocol. We'll get to that in a minute. And then they're playing the Jets, which is most likely going to be and should be without Aaron Rodgers. So I just don't see them going anywhere. They're a great defense, have all the skill, and they are proving it. And they're going to finish. They're going to finish you out, and they might win you a championship. They really might.
I agree.
Someone else who might win you a championship, by the way. This is not a guy who you end up picking up in the top 2, top 3, top 4 rounds. This is a guy who you picked in a later round, kind of hoping that he's a rookie who's going to maybe do a pretty decent job in your flex, and my God, he will. He has emerged in the Kansas City wide receiver core, Rashee Rice. Let's go over some numbers here. So in the last 4 weeks, he had 38 receptions, 334 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 9 receptions and 91 of those yards came last week, and another touchdown. Add that up, he literally was the wide receiver 7 last week. If you go and take a look at his ranks at the wide receiver position the last 4 weeks, he ranked number 3, 22, 12, and 7.
Yeah.
That's a guy you have in your flex.
Yeah, he's been having a post by season for sure. I mean, the last 4 weeks, over 10 points, and spurts of something throughout the rest of the season. Those touchdowns really helped weeks 9 and week 7, but and 5. But definitely someone who's coming out of his shell. He's finally Mahomes has a target who's not Travis Kelce. I think over the last couple weeks he's been definitely consistent.
Yeah.
All right, for mine, I'm going with James Cook. You could have put him in the surprise category with how much he scored last week, but I think at this point of the season, he's locked in as a must start.
Yep.
He's really been playing very well, especially since the bye week. He put up 20.1, then 34.1. He's, I believe, top 10 in average right now. He might be 10.
Number 5. He's
Right.
ranked at number 5 right now in the position.
There you go. So yeah, he's definitely. I think I drafted him as my RB3 in one league, and I'm very happy with the value I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean he's doing good. He's become that workhorse. Last game he had 25 carries. I mean he is a workhorse. You see that,
Right?
Their backups didn't get any carries for the most part. And week 16 he's going against the Chargers, who just showed that. They are not good, So
although
game changer.
Why? Hold on. We got to take a note here. For some reason, teams play different that first week under an interim coach. I don't know why, but for some reason they do. So we'll see.
Yeah. Going into our disappointments for week 15, I gotta start off with Derrick Henry.
Henry.
Maybe he's starting to show his age. I don't really know, but he did not do you any favors this week. 3 points in this league. He only had 9 yards for 16 carries, 4 receptions for 1 yard. What happened? And Tajay didn't do much either, but I think we're starting to see Henry's age, and hopefully we'll see Tajay Spears be the primary back now that Henry's kind of slowing down. But I don't know. Was it he played against Houston, who she should have had a major game, but
I mean, Houston has a sneaky front line, though. I will say that. I mean, they've actually held a lot of people in check, so it kind of didn't shock me that he had a bad game. But when you say you're in a PPR league and he has 4 receptions, he still only had 5 points total. That's a huge problem. I am with you there. Yep. Derrick Henry really did. Honestly, Derrick Henry lost people weeks. I know that from experience this past week. Someone who I don't know this from experience, though, thank God. I swear to God, I feel like I just talked about him. Oh, wait, I did. Yeah. My disappointment for this past week was yet again Zay Flowers. So I know if you can remember back to week 14, I just actually said he was the consistent player of the week. Well, week 15 was a little bit of a different story. So the passing game was not working at all for Baltimore, and it showed through Zay Flowers. He only had 2 targets, 1 reception for 7 yards. After just hyping him up and literally saying how he got all these targets, he had 18 targets throughout 2 weeks between week 12 and 14, and that was 2 weeks because they had the bye in the middle of that. He then comes back with this dud against Jacksonville. I expect Jacksonville to be a rock and sock team where they might be throwing. Didn't happen. I'm going back to my original thought of don't play wide receivers from the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, man.
All right, my disappointment is going to be TJ Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm.
He's number 2, I believe, on the season, but he started off real hot, kept it going. Just had a bad week. I do wonder if this week, I believe Vikings play the Lions, right, Tyler?
Vikings play the Lions.
We'll see. So maybe he has a good revenge game. No. We'll see.
Dude, Lions are so close to the conference.
You know what? I care about my fantasy team way more than I do about the Detroit Lions.
No, dude, so they are so close.
There's something about hearing Eminem, though. Come on, you got to keep it going.
Dude, if the Lions get the conference, it will have made my 2024.
TJ Hawkinson's going to have a bounce back game, nice revenge game against the Lions. Let's go, Hawkinson.
You know what? Because that way it's going to be a high scoring game when the Lions continue to win.
16 for 16. Come on, get 16 points.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
All right.
Just going through a couple of the, unfortunately, there's more than a couple. The last few weeks have been a little bit injury plagued. Let's go through and just see what the major injuries have been and what we can do. So, you need the applause there? Really?
Yeah. Because these injuries are going to kill people's leagues.
Oh, they're killing mine. I'll tell you that. One of somebody who I have on my injury list, I have Brian Robinson Jr. He's unfortunately out with a thumb injury, but That occurred in Week 13. That's not anything new, but it is still holding him out in Week 15. If you have Antonio Gibson anywhere around, he might be worth a play, but honestly, I'd probably look elsewhere. Other guys who are hurting you, who are injured in Week 13, Christian Watson still had that hamstring injury. That's not going to be for a little bit. I don't think you're going to be seeing him, but Jaden Reed will hopefully do better for that. Ramondre Stevenson, high ankle sprain. Again, Week 13, he's still out in Week 14 and 15. We'll see when he comes back, but Zeke is going to be the guy. Ezekiel Elliott, he's going to be your guy to cover Ramondre Stevenson as long as he's out. Justin Jefferson came back and got hurt again in Week 14, but he did play in Week 15, so I'll give him that. Had a slower week, but we already went over the fact that Addison blew up that week. Jerome Ford for the Cleveland Browns, he still has a hand and wrist injury. That happened in Week 14, but he did play through it. If it proves to be a problem, Kareem Hunt will be your guy to take that over. CJ Stroud still remains in concussion protocol. He got hit real hard in Week 14. Still is out of Week 15 and missed practice yesterday. So
monitor him. Keep on the lookout because that's going to affect your lineups really hard.
Absolutely. Another quarterback who got hurt in Week 14. You don't quite, unfortunately, have to monitor him. It's Justin Herbert. He went out with a finger. He had surgery. He's out for the season. Alexander Madison. He hurt his ankle. Again, Week 14. The only good news on the horizon there is that Ty Chandler did emerge, and quite frankly, I think Ty Chandler might be the new guy. I think he might be the new RB1. Even when Madison comes back, Ty Chandler just looks too good. Keenan Allen, he had a heel injury. He sat out Week 15. I would look strongly toward Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnston, but mostly Joshua Palmer. Josh Jacobs, he hurt his quads, so he sat out Week 15. The guy who really took over was Zamir White. Zamir White, by the way, had a hell of a game. He was almost my surprise play, but I decided to go elsewhere. Look for Zamir White on your waiver wire if he's around, but after this past week, I doubt you're going to be the only one looking for him.
Jacobs might come back too. I would play Jacobs over White if Jacobs is back.
Oh, no. I take that back. If Jacobs comes back, you're playing Jacobs, then Zamir White goes to pretty much nothing. But if he's not playing, then Zamir White's an absolute play again. Just because you see all the volume that Jacobs gets, and that's exactly what White's going to get. Another quarterback that got hurt, not that it really matters for fantasy, but Zach Wilson did have a minor knee injury, and quite frankly, it didn't matter. He played in Week 15 and then got benched by halftime, I believe it was. Your benefactor for that is pretty much the entire NFL fandom. So Nico Collins, he hurt his calf out with Week 15. Noah Brown is going to be your benefactor of that.
Be on the lookout for that one too, because he might come back. So keep up to date on your questionables and make sure you're up to date on those injuries.
Absolutely, you're right. Nico Collins is one of the guys who is not looking to be out for very long. He might be coming back for Week 16, and if he does, he's primed for a big uptick. A couple of guys who got hurt in Week 14 who play for the high octane offense for Miami. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They both Tyreek Hill had an ankle. Jalen Waddle had a head injury, but they both returned to the game. The only difference is Tyreek Hill sat out for Week 15, and Jalen Waddle played and dominated in Week 15. I will say, though, I expect both of them to play this upcoming week in Week 16. Chris Olave, he got hurt his ankle in Week 14, and he did miss Week 15 for it. I don't anticipate that being too long, but monitor him. If you need somebody to replace him, Raheed Shaheed should be the guy. As long as JT's still out, Zach Moss. Zach Moss is also hurt. He hurt his arm. Unfortunately, it's the same arm he hurt earlier this season. Worried that it might be a deeper bone, especially with the fact that they added in a steel plate. Make sure X-rays were negative, so he's possible for Week 16, but I would say probably not. Keaton Mitchell tore ACL. He's done for the season. Marquise Brown, not that you were playing anyway, but he also hurt his heel. I would avoid him at all costs. This one hurts for a lot of people going into the playoffs. Jamar Chase.
That one hurts.
That one hurts a lot of people. You may have rode him through. he's going to be tough. So he's probably out for at least this week, if not next. Look toward T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd might be unlikely, but might be on your waivers. Take a look for him.
How much does that affect Jake Browning's fantasy value?
I actually personally don't think it affects it much because I really think because Jake Browning is going to be just going for the slot, I think Tyler Boyd is going to be a real pickup.
Yeah, and T. Higgins had a really great game last week, in Jamar Chase's absence when he went out. T. Higgins had his best week of the season, I think, So
absolutely.
Not really worried about Browning. I think you're more going to be surprised by Higgins and what maybe Boyd can do.
Agreed.
Got it.
So Jaden Reed, unfortunately, went out with a toe injury in Week 15. Unfortunately, Christian Watson still being out. Jaden Reed being the number 2 guy. You're looking at Romeo Doubs as being maybe the sole guy who's going to be leading the wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers. Both Watson and Reed, though, may come back this week. Monitor them. Trevor Lawrence, he entered concussion protocol in Week 15. Monitor his situation. Same with Will Levis. He got hurt in Week 15 with a high ankle sprain. Not that many people were playing Levis. If you were, you're probably not seeing him the rest of the season.
Yeah, but it affects Hopkins too, so you got to be careful with that.
It does affect Hopkins a little bit, but I would just monitor it. You're going to have Tannehill probably going in for him. We'll see what happens, but that combo did not work out very well early this season. Michael Pittman Jr., this one hurts a lot of people. Michael Pittman Jr. was a good steal in a lot of the drafts in rounds 4 or 5. He's out in concussion protocol. Hopefully you can get somebody to make it through Week 16 without him. Now going to a couple of tight ends who maybe got you through. Hunter Henry with a knee injury in Week 15 and Trey McBride with a shoulder injury in Week 15. Those guys have been pretty decent tight ends for you. I just monitor the situation. I do anticipate Trey McBride continuing. Hunter Henry may need a little bit more monitoring. And I hope that helped you guys as far as making decisions and looking for some waiver wire pickups for your injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Keep up to date with those injuries. Make sure you're checking your lineups because those things change, and especially this being such a key week, you want to play. Even if some of the guys are coming back for injury, you want to play them. Keep up to date with Hill. Keep up to date with Waddle, Nico Collins. You might want to keep up. Definitely C.J. Stroud. There's a lot of guys you want to stay up to date on. It's playoffs. Yeah, keep up to date. Have a backup plan because you want your starters, but you got to pivot at some point if they're still out. But moving on to our Week 16 preview, and I'm really excited because this is going to be a great week of football. Starting off on Thursday night with the Saints versus the Rams. Some key players that you're going to want to start. I'm going to say yes, you want to start Kamara. If Olave is healthy, I think he's a start no matter the injury he's coming off of. Definitely keep Derek Carr on the bench. He had an okay week last week, but I don't trust him as a quarterback. And one of my guys, we have this other category. We got the start, the sit, and then we have a third category, and that's what I call the ouch category. That's just you hate that you have to start him, but you have to. And one of the guys that screams me is Taysom Hill. I feel like I have to start him because his ceiling is so high, even though his floor is basically 0.
He literally can get you 0 points. He literally can get you 25.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys that's like in the tight end position. He's only a play, in my opinion, if you are the guy who's not supposed to win and you really, really need to get it. You need to get some extra points. This
is a long shot pick, but moving on the Rams, we got Kyron Williams. You're starting Kyron Williams. He's been just killing it. Cooper Kupp finally had a game last week, and I think against the Saints might be a tougher matchup defensively, but then you're also starting Nakua. So I would say either one of those or both could still get you a good fantasy outlook. I do say I worry about Matt Stafford. He's another one of those categories where it's a tough matchup for defensive-wise, but Matt Stafford has over the couple weeks, he's done pretty good. So just be mindful of him. If you're in a pinch because you got Jake Browning or Zach Wilson, God forbid, Matthew Stafford is definitely one of those pivot options.
I do think Stafford would be a good play, actually. I'm going to just interject a little bit here real quick. I think Derek Carr I think it's going to be a shootout, don't you? Saints versus Rams? I think it could be. Because
we'll see.
Yeah.
Depends if Olave's healthy, how Carr plays.
It does depend on if Olave's healthy. That's true. But if Olave's in, I would say Carr is.
Yeah, but the Saints struggled against Carolina week 14, and that's kind of where my eyes at. Is this Los Angeles Rams is not the Giants, and Carr, he's had some sprinkles of goodness, here and there, but going in the playoffs, you definitely have better options. You should have better options. Moving on to the Bengals Steelers. Can't wait for some more Saturday games. Bengals Steelers. You're playing Joe Mixon. You drafted him for where he was. Steelers is a tough defense, but you picked him for a reason. Going into playoffs, he's got a decent ceiling and a decent floor. We talked about Higgins and Boyd. I think you're starting both of them. I think that there's just not without Jamar Chase out. I definitely would start Higgins. Boyd, I'd feel a little bit more iffy about. Same with Chase Brown, their secondary running back. If you need an option, you could pivot to Brown, but again, it's against a really tough run defense. And I don't know. I think you got better options. I would choose Carr over Browning, so I'm going to say I would sit Browning, even though he's had decent weeks. Yeah, I don't trust him. That's my problem. I mean, he's had 3 decent weeks, 3 wins, but not on his side for starting him for fantasy relevancy. Moving on to the Steelers. I think none of the Steelers are really firm starts. I think they're all kind of like, God, I hate that I have to play him. First off, being Jaylen Warren, I think he's shown throughout the season that he can carry the ball, but I think you also don't. You're kind of not really confident in it. Same with Najee Harris; they both had spurts. I think they're still fantasy relevant, but I just don't love playing them. Steelers, I honestly think you should play their defense. It's against the backup quarterback on the Bengals, who I guess he's looked okay, but the Steelers' defense has just done really well this season. And another pivot option on tight end is you could Juwan Johnson. He had a great week last week. If the Bengals, I'm sorry, Deontay Johnson is the wide receiver. It's not a terrible matchup for him, and I think Mason Rudolph's quarterback now too, so maybe something will come alive there.
Mason Rudolph has taken over as quarterback. I just want to take this moment to bring up the fact that we have an ongoing bet with the running backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do believe going back to the past 5 weeks, we wanted to see if they were going to be a play for both Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I want to say that 4 of those 5 weeks they were not.
All right.
Out of it, so
we'll see.
Bills Chargers tie.
Yeah, Bills Chargers. Let's start. Bills Chargers, another game. I think it's going to be a total bloodbath after seeing what the Raiders did to this Chargers team. You're going to start Allen. You're going to start Cooks. You're going to start Diggs. I think because of the matchup, you're going to start Dalton Kincaid. I don't know about you. I don't like Gabe Davis. I never trust it. He has every other week he's going different way. Maybe in this matchup you play him, but I think
matchup you play him.
I think it's going to be a bloodbath, and they're just going to run the ball. So Cook is my number 1 on this right now.
Playoffs.
It's
hard to trust, but I do wonder if he's going to have one of those weeks where he puts up a touchdown and 60 yards, just because he has those weeks every once in a while, and Chargers have been playing terribly.
Yeah, not a pick though. For the Chargers, I think everyone is not an easy start. I hate that I have to play Austin Eckler. Hate that I have to play Keenan Allen if he's healthy, and I hate that I have to play Joshua Palmer, who was Mike's surprise of the week during his not even playing week, surprisingly. But I don't have confidence.
Let me tell you,
it was a surprise. I don't have confidence in any of these guys. Just not. I'm going to be a bloodbath on the Bills side, but that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, and then on the next game, we got Commanders versus Jets. So on the Commanders side, really only person I feel confident starting there is Robinson. 2 players on the fence, McLaurin and Howell. Howell, you're playing if you don't have better options, and McLaurin, I think you're looking for somebody more consistent, especially against the Jets defense.
It's a tough matchup for the Washington Commanders with the Jets pass defense, but I don't know. I still think McLaurin and Samuel are those people who you kind of, especially after the weeks they've had, I feel like I might need to play them.
It depends who else you got on your roster. Right. I'm looking for better options in both.
Yeah, I would say if you made it to the playoffs and you're still playing, especially in a lot of people's week 2, you're probably not having these guys on your roster because they've probably hurt you too many times in the past. If you can avoid McLaurin or Samuel, I would probably do so.
Would you go?
Them, you're not in fantasy playoffs.
Would you go McLaurin or Samuel or Nico? I'm sorry, Noah.
Noah Brown.
No, Noah Brown if Stroud's back.
Yeah. Okay.
On the Jets side, you got Breece Hall, who I know he's had a few off games, but I think you got to start him because of the match, especially with the matchup. Defense, start them. If you have, start them. Wilson, they got a quarterback carousel happening with the Jets right now, so he's on the fence, but he's probably better than your other options. Moving on to Lions versus Vikings. So on the Lions side, it's going to be a fun game. That's a great divisional matchup. On the Lions side, I think you got a bunch of guys that you got to play. You got Jared Goff, who he's been consistently right around 8 to 10, points. Some weeks he's gone off and been top 3. Amon St. Brown, he's going to, I know week 14 he put up 2.1. He'll bounce back.
Laporta's going to do
on fire. Thing. Yeah. Montgomery, we talked about how he's been pretty consistent. And then Gibbs, I think you also got to start him. There's a lot of Lions players I'm starting in playoffs.
Yep.
On the Vikings side, not starting that many people. Hawkinson, I am, just because I do expect him to bounce back. He had one off week. The rest of the season, he's been top 3 tight end. And Chandler, depending on Madison's status, and Justin Jefferson, if I drafted him, I think I got to start him too.
Would you start Addison? With Jefferson back, Hawkinson now, Chandler showing that he's pretty good. Mike, are you starting Addison?
I feel like you can't.
Addison or Addison or McLaurin?
McLaurin.
Addison.
I would do McLaurin because Madison. I'm sorry. No, I just don't trust Mullins. Honest, I just don't trust Mullins as the
guy. I'm going Addison.
He may have had a decent week, but you look at his throws and his throws are awful. His throws were not accurate. He got a couple of catches that were kind of lucky.
Man, I don't know. I'm going with Addison personally. I think with Jefferson back, it gives him a little bit more flexibility. And
we might need to make this instead of a wide receiver bet. I want to do a wide receiver bet here. I think it's a wide receiver bet.
There we go.
Who do you think's better? Okay, Tyler, put it down.
I got McLaurin.
Okay,
I got Addison.
Okay, so me and Ty are with McLaurin. You're at Addison.
Yep. Man, okay. Next game we got Browns versus Texans. And New Joe, he's been putting up
he's been really good
season. He's been in the league for quite a few seasons. Hasn't really been like what he could be. Kind of been floating between 6 and 10. And these past few weeks, even with Flacco at QB, he's been cooking. Cooper, Jerome Ford, I'm also starting those two. On the Texan side, if Stroud's healthy, I'm starting him. Nico Collins, if he's healthy. If Nico Collins is not healthy, I'm definitely starting Noah Brown. And then Singletary's right on the fence.
You hate that you have to play him.
Dameon Pierce has been playing so bad, and he's been playing so well that I kind of feel like I gotta ride, the hot.
But it's against the Browns.
That's the hard thing.
I know. True. Now it's going to depend. I think I would be comfortable playing Singletary as a flex option. I would not love it if he's going to be like my running back 2, just because even though he could put up running back 2-1 numbers, he can also give you a dud.
Yeah, and I think one thing to monitor too is Joe Flacco. He's had a decent 3 games. I think in a pinch, if you have no other QB option, it's not a bad matchup. He could be a decent stream. Just be mindful of what you might get.
There you go. Mike, hit us up with the next one.
Yeah, I get to go through some of the more exciting games here. I'll say that. At the Packers versus Panthers, I'd say here, you got Christian Watson. If he comes back, I would definitely be a little bit curious. I would be leery about playing him personally. Jaden Reed, if he still is playing, I would be all about him. Outside of that, I really don't love almost any of these guys, even against the matchup. Huh?
Intended.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, pun intended. There you go.
I don't know. I
love
might
any of
start
these
Jordan
guys.
Love.
Huh?
I would start Jordan Love this week, I think.
I don't trust his arm. I don't trust a lot of the
I
Green Bay
would.
Packers. They've had
Versus the Panthers.
Hmm?
The Panthers. It's not a good matchup. It's not a hard matchup, I should say.
Oh, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. But if you're I don't even think people in the playoffs have these guys.
Yeah, he could be a stream.
I'll say this. I mean, these guys might be maybe if you're behind and you guys see these guys on your waiver wire and you think you need somebody who's going to absolutely boom, then sure, you can go with them. But the guy who's going to boom is going to be Christian Watson, who's probably not going to play this week. Then you got Reed, who I think is also banged up because he has this toe injury. I don't love any of these guys, and especially when the fact that you're saying they might go ahead because they're playing a terrible team. Well, they're really playing a terrible offense, so they don't even have to put up a lot of points just to win the game. So,
I think I'm gonna call a forecast here. I think Aaron Jones is finally gonna have a good game.
I agree.
I think he's gonna be top 10 this week.
Aaron Jones, I will say top 10. Huh? That's bold. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I don't think he'll be top 10, but I think he'll be top 24. Now, going to the other side of the ball, I'd say for the Packers, I'd play Bobby Boucher, the water boy. He's always great. But outside of him, nobody. So you're pretty much, in my opinion, you're steering clear of this game if you can, only because they have good. The Green Bay Packers have the weapons. I just think they're all injured at the moment. I don't think you want to take them to at less than their best. Going on to the Seahawks and the Titans, though, now you're getting to some games that some people who might actually be worth playing. I got Metcalf. I've been hard on Metcalf. You know what? He keeps proving me wrong, and you know what? I'll bite. I'll take Metcalf for a play here. Kenneth Walker looked fantastic last week. He was fast. He was agile. He was cutting and deacon. Play him as an RB1 for sure. Geno Smith, I would put as like an ouch category. I don't necessarily know how much I love it, but
if he even plays,
right? Exactly, and you don't even know if he's playing. Drew Lock actually didn't look all that awful. So
Drew Lock won on Monday Night Football.
Exactly, he won on Monday Night Football. Other wide receivers though, Lockett, Smith, and Jigba. They're getting looks. They are getting looks. I think I would put them in that flex category, but I wouldn't necessarily want to be starting them unless I'd hope you have better options. I would probably put them both somewhere in the ranks of wide receiver 24 to 30 this week.
Are you playing Charbonnet?
No,
me neither.
Not with the emergence of Walker.
Yeah,
Walker,
and especially against the Titans' run defense, I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Which is why if Geno's back, you could flex it, consider him. I think Metcalf and Walker and maybe Lockett, but I think they're going to have to throw the ball. Let's just see if they can.
They will, I agree, and I think the Titans do. Like you just said, they have a great defense for the run. Now, going to the Titans side of the ball, with Will Levis hurt, I don't know how much I trust Hopkins, and he's really your only offensive force on the wide receiver route. Derrick Henry, I rode Derrick Henry to get here into the playoffs. You gotta play him. He gave you a dud last week, but you know what? I do believe that he's going to come back with one because it's Derrick Henry. He can literally get 3 touchdowns in that game, and you do not want to see that on your bench.
Agreed.
Moving on to the next game, we got the Colts and the Falcons. Pittman, unfortunately, monitor his situation. He's got the concussion protocol right now. Well, hopefully.
Unfortunately,
we'll see. But if he's in, he's a lock. He gets all the targets in the offense. Jonathan Taylor, monitor him. I've been hearing rumors, especially with Moss going down. You might see him get pressed into play, and he might end up getting a lot of work because of Moss going down.
Here's a good question: Minshew or Browning? There's been so many quarterback injuries going on.
I would go Browning over Minshew.
I'd go Flacco over all 3.
I'd still go Browning over Flacco.
Okay.
Now, who I would definitely flex in this situation for the Colts side of the ball would be Josh Downs.
Let's hope.
I think he will. I think he will with the probable loss of Pittman. I think he's going to get a lot of touches, and in a PPR format, he's going to look real well. Now, with the Falcons side of the ball, another team that just hurts, right? I mean, you got Drake London, who looks fantastic when he gets thrown the ball, but he just doesn't get thrown the ball a whole lot. Kyle Pitts still looks like he's an actual athlete, even though he gets no touches. And you got Bijan Robinson, who is just an immense talent, who for some reason was punished because he fumbled the ball. But guess what? People do it. I'd still play them if you have to, but none of these guys. Robinson, you're playing. I mean, Bijan Robinson, you're absolutely starting, no doubt about it, because he can give you a ton. Algier, I wouldn't necessarily touch too much, and I don't even know who's then. Taylor Heineke is going to be the one who's leading that offense now, though. So we'll see. Maybe he does better than Ritter on the passing front. I hope that's my hope for London.
Yeah, and especially coming off a pretty tough loss against the Panthers, I think given the matchup, start him, but you kind of have in the back of your mind like, hey, they went through the same scenario against a great matchup against the Panthers and didn't do a thing. So I think it's tough to play the Falcons, but I think, like you mentioned, those guys you have to. Going on the Jags and the Bucks game, the Jags side of the ball, I think, I don't know if you're 100% confident in a lot of these Jags. I think, especially after against the Ravens, Bucks they have a decent defense. So Trevor Lawrence, you think he's a star. Evan Ingram obviously is a favorite of him, of Trevor Lawrence. So I think you're going to start Evan Ingram. Travis Etienne he's running the ball, but again, against a tough run defense. I think you're going to play Ridley just given that fact. And again, kind of be mindful of Lawrence. From the Bucs side of the ball, Rachaad White, he is just the economical draft pick of the season who, went in the 6th round. You are starting Rachaad White. He is just killing it. He is a top 10 running back right now in the season. Mike Evans didn't have a great game last week, but I think you're still going to start him. Two guys also to consider, streamers, be mindful. Baker Mayfield had a great week last week. He probably won some people playoff spots into the semis. So keep your eye on him. This isn't a terrible matchup. And Godwin had a great week last week, but I don't expect it this week. But again, if you have him and you have no other option, I don't think that bad given his performance last week.
I do think that Godwin was coming off of an injury that lasted for a while. Last week, he really looked himself. He really looked like he was actually able to break away a little bit better. I'd say Godwin's a good locked-in wide receiver too.
Yeah, and if not a flex, I think it's just it's a decent matchup. It's going to be him, Evans, and Godwin. So you're gonna have to get lucky on one of them because I don't know if it's going to be really split. Talking about the Cowboys, Dolphins, even based off last week's performance, you're still going to start Dak. You're going to definitely start CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Jake Ferguson. Those are all starts in my opinion, even against the Miami Dolphins, whose defense has looked actually pretty good, surprisingly. But start them. Brandon Cooks, I think, is one that you're going to have to consider. I think it's a doable thing. I would consider him as a flex option. The Dolphins side of the ball, you're starting Tyreek Hill, you're starting Mostert, Mostert or must start as other people call him. Achane, starting them. Tua, I'm not as confident starting, and neither is Waddle. If Hill is back, I'm not a confident Waddle guy. I don't think I've ever started him this season because he's really been a disappointment. And Tua over the past couple weeks has also not been the guy you want if my memory serves me. But so I would just keep those in mind as well.
So Tua's been he's been right around the fringe top 12 guy. He started off the season as the number 1 quarterback, and he's been slowly going down the ranks since then. So I would say that he's a play if you need one, especially given the fact that he might be one of the only guys who's still been, a name going into the season who's
healthy.
He's healthy, and he's on a high octane offense. It is against the Cowboys. I don't love it, but I will say I think Waddle is going to be a great play this week, especially if Hill is still out. If Hill comes back, then I guess it becomes questionable. That's my only thought. Next game though, going into the Cardinals Bears.
We have a.
I do think. Huh?
Hello, kitty. Jordan's got a cat. He's got a cat visitor.
Oh, look at that. So going into the Cardinals Bears game, I'm liking the workload of James Conner. James Conner has been basically running the ball all over the place. He catches passes. He is just that typical workhorse back, and you know what? I think it's not going to end. Someone else I absolutely love on this offense, who is shocking that I love anybody on this offense, Trey McBride has emerged as an absolute star at tight end. He might go down as one of those absolute steals on the season because he's been killing it the past 5 or 6 weeks with like 10 targets a game or 8 targets a game, and he's catching most of them. So Trey McBride is an absolute start. Guys who I'd stay away from: Marquise Brown, he's turned up on the injury report, and Kyler Murray. If you really need a guy and you're projected to be behind, he might get it done with the legs because there's going to be 2 bad teams kind of going at it, clawing for something. But I'd say Kyler Murray is a later pick for a quarterback, in my opinion. On the other side, I would definitely say Fields is a start. Fields against this Cardinals.
Fields going to have a field day.
Absolutely, Fields going to have a field day, and he's going to be doing it, and he's going to want more to do it with. So, him, Cole Kmet, and Fields, they're absolute locks, in my opinion, to start this game. Pretty much, I would be touching nobody else after that, though.
Man, okay, so Raiders versus Chiefs. On the Raiders side, we got to monitor that running back situation. I think if Josh Jacobs is healthy, you're starting him. If he's not playing, start White, but only start White if Jacobs is out. Then Devontae Adams, I'm definitely starting him. Jacoby Myers, it depends on who else you got, but he's in the flex conversation. For the Chiefs side, Kelsey, must starts. Then for the Chiefs running back situation, Pacheco, monitor if he's coming back this week. I think Mahomes, just because of who he is, you got to start him. He did put up 24.82 points the last time he played the Raiders.
Yeah, and I think also Rice is one of those guys you're probably going to want to start going into this matchup, especially I think the Raiders D showed they could do something, but I would go I would in your lineup.
Absolutely. I think Rice is an absolute lock here. I think the Raiders defense only just went off because it was the Chargers. That was it.
Man. And then Giants versus Eagles. Not a whole lot to start on the Giants side of things right now. Barkley, I think if you got him, especially if you drafted him high, you got to start him. But I don't expect big things from him against the Eagles defense. And then Eagles, just freaking everybody. Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts. Running back situation's a little tough out of everybody in that offense, but I think if you got Swift and
DeAndre Swift.
Don't forget Goddard. Goddard's been a solid play at tight end too. So.
Goddard as well. Yeah. And if you got him, start him.
Absolutely. I mean, the Eagles, the entire offense you're going with, and quite frankly, I'm also saying the defense. You got 6 plays out of this team right now, which unfortunately they are coming off. They're on a little skid, but I think the will correct them right there. Now, one more game we got. We got 2 more games: Patriots and Broncos. I'd say Ezekiel Elliott, you got to put him in. If Ramondre Stevenson's out, you got to put it in Elliott. He's proven that he can be a hell of a pass catcher with I think over 5 catches each game that Ramondre's been out. So you're playing him. I would say no to Pop Douglas, but that's somebody who, if you really need somebody who you want to basically just go out and try and get a bunch of receptions, he could be a possible flex for you, but I'd steer clear. I think you could find better options. On the Broncos side of the ball, I'm all A-okay with starting Wilson and Sutton. Javonte Williams has just not been there. He just has not taken over this backfield like he did when he was a rookie. I'd steer clear of him, and Jerry Jeudy has just not lived up to that first-round status.
Yeah, I agree. I think Javonte is one of those guys where you drafted him where you did, and you're going to play him. But I think he got his first touchdown last week, so not really all impressed with him this season. Last game we're going to cover, Monday Night Football, Ravens, 49ers. I think this is going to be a banger of a game. You got the Ravens defense versus the 49ers offense and defense. Let's see what happens. On the Ravens side of the ball, you're going to start Lamar. I don't like any of the running backs on the Ravens side, especially with Keaton Mitchell out. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to start Ravens running backs. Be cautious, and again, I think there's better pivots, but you're going to be cautious about starting Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, and possibly even OBJ. Again, this is a hard matchup. The 49ers are I would even say their defense might be the best in the league or top 5 right now.
So good.
They're so good. So it's going to be a tough for you to start anyone's on the Ravens side. 49ers side, you've got Christian McCaffrey. You're going to start him. Brock Purdy's going to match up. Is Purdy going to be someone we stream out?
Yes.
Absolutely. No,
you're gonna play him.
You play him. You just play him.
All right. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think the Ravens might win this game. But either way, based off the performance, you're gonna start Christian. You're gonna start Purdy, Debo. You're gonna start. I guess you start the defense, but it's gonna be a shootout. George Kittle, he's just been performing, and Brandon Ayuk, I think, is also a start.
Right now, I think there's just no team better in. I don't know if I've ever seen a better team than the 49ers right now. They look absolutely dominant. I don't think anyone's going to really get in their way. I just think that's going to end up being what it's going to be here. I think you got to play everybody on the offense for San Francisco.
Absolutely,
yeah.
I agree. Moving on.
All right, Jordan, bring us in.
Next segment here,
Sorry.
we got. No, you're good. You're good. I appreciate the intro. We're gonna call it Duel of the Fools. Basically, what we're gonna be doing.
Alrighty then.
Two players. I'm gonna go through them, and then we're each gonna see, in predictions how they're gonna do in Week 16. Who do we expect to put up more fantasy football points? So at the quarterback position, we got Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields.
Who are they playing?
I got
Lamar plays San Francisco. Justin Fields plays Arizona.
I got Fields.
I think we all went with
I
Fields.
also have Fields.
This one. I think.
Yeah, we all feel the same.
On an average week, Lamar. I think just
Yep.
San Francisco's such a good defense. Tyler
Absolutely.
was just talking about that.
I actually made this. I made this pick specifically because Fields is going against Arizona, not necessarily Lamar going against San Francisco.
Yeah, not much to debate on this one. We'll see if we all get this one right. Moving on to running backs, we got three different matches here of our own. We got first one, Breece Hall versus Washington, and then Alvin Kamara versus LA Rams.
I'm going Kamara. I think. I'm gonna go with Breece Hall. I don't like it, but I'm gonna do it.
Right, dude. That's how I feel. I don't
see. All right, so Tyler, I'm
glad you did
that because I didn't want us all to agree again. I did not want us all to agree on this one, but you switch so that way I can lock in Alvin Kamara. I think in a PPR format, which is how we're looking at this. Actually, we're looking at this in a half PPR format, but even with half PPR format, I think Alvin Kamara is going to walk away with this one against the Rams.
I also got Kamara. I'm just not sure I really trust Hall or that Jets offense. Running back matchup 2. We got DeAndre Swift going against my team, the New York Giants, and then James Conner going against Chicago Bears. How we feeling?
I'm going with DeAndre Swift, actually, just because of the matchup. I think he's going to tear this Giants team apart. The defense has looked okay. I'm going Swift.
He's been a bit rocky, but I agree. Matchup, I'm going with DeAndre Swift.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go the other way around here. I actually love DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to end up doing it pretty well. I just think James Conner is going to end up being out there more. I think what's going to end up happening is DeAndre Swift and the Eagles are going to run through. They're going to get a huge lead, and then eventually they're just going to throw in Gainwell to just start taking up time. James Conner, he's going to be out there the whole time working his way through. He's going to get all the receptions. He's going to get all the looks, and he's going to get probably 80-plus yards, hopefully a touchdown. I think he's going to take it over Swift this week.
Good point, Mike. It's very possible. RB matchup number 3, we got Ty Chandler versus Detroit Lions or Ezekiel Elliott versus Denver. I personally, on this one, I'm going Ty Chandler against Detroit. I just think that Zeke is not going to continue what he did.
Yeah, I actually I pivoted. And I hate that I had to do this because I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so I can't go with Ty Chandler, even though I really feel like I need to. But I went Zeke Elliott. I think, the Detroit Lions defense is just so good against the running game, even though they haven't been over the past few weeks. They started the season number 1 or top 5 against the run game. So I'm going Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, I'm glad you pivoted because honestly, I actually was just pivoting too. So now we both pivoted to even out what we were doing. I think I have to go Chandler. Chandler's looked awesome. Ezekiel Elliott, I love the workload. I don't necessarily want to believe in just workload with Ezekiel Elliott because, like you said, he's kind of overperformed. I think so. I'm going to go to Ty Chandler on this one.
Man.
All right.
Now moving on to wide receivers. Our first matchup there, we got Rashee Rice going against Las Vegas. And then we got T. Higgins going against Pittsburgh.
I'm between the two. This is a hard one because
This is a hard one.
Vegas,
this is a real hard one.
Their pass defense is not great, and Rashee Rice has gotten a touchdown. He got a touchdown last week. I think he's had a touchdown majority of the weeks over the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm still going with Rice, although I do think it's so. The thing I don't like is this Pittsburgh matchup for T. Higgins, so that's why I'm going Rice.
Man, I went with T. Higgins. Pittsburgh matchup is tough, but I went with T. Higgins.
I'm going with T. Higgins as well. I don't think Pittsburgh's the matchup is going to be as quite badly as you guys are thinking, and quite frankly, now T. Higgins is the look. He is going to be the one. Jamar Chase is going to be out. He's going to get all the balls.
All right, matchup number 2, we got Stephon Diggs going against LA Chargers and Jalen Waddle going against Dallas. With Stephon Diggs, he's going to cook.
I went with Diggs.
Yeah, we all went with Diggs. It's going to be a game where they're just going to be throwing the ball a lot. Chargers have no defense. Jalen Waddle, even though he's going to be a big look, he's on a better offense. Dallas is just too good, I think.
All right, last wide receiver matchup, we got Chris Godwin versus Tyler Lockett. On this one, I personally went with Tyler Lockett. I just feel like Tennessee's not that solid of a team. Chris Godwin's been hit or miss.
Yeah, I went with Lockett too. I'm not as confident as you are, but against this Tennessee team, they're going to have to throw the ball. If Geno Smith, I think you got better odds that he's going to outperform Godwin, but I think even with Drew Lock, I think I'm hopeful. I don't expect Chris Godwin's performance from last week, so I went with Lockett.
Yep.
I think Chris Godwin actually did come back. I'm choosing Godwin. I mean, maybe I'm looking at too much into this past week. I think he looked better, but if I'm fooled, I'm fooled. But I'm going Godwin on this one.
You are a fool.
So are we all, bud.
Last matchup, it's tight ends. We're going Jake Ferguson against my Dolphins or David Njoku versus Houston Texans. I think we all picked.
We all kind of agree on this one, right?
David Njoku.
David Njoku.
The matchup's too sweet.
Too sweet.
Yeah.
Playing too well with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Flacco and him have just been on fire.
I don't want to take any credit away from Jake Ferguson here, though. Even though we're all choosing Njoku, Ferguson has looked great. He's had a lot of receptions. He's had a lot of targets in the end zone. I wouldn't be surprised if he came out with a touchdown or two. And in this game, where Miami's offense is going to try and cook. So,
yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That was Duel the Fools, boys. That was our first segment of Duels of the Fools.
First segment of Duels of the Fools. That's going to be a weekly segment, everybody. We're going to actually keep track of who does right and who gets the most amount of correct answers out of this, and we're going to track who wins who wins the most weeks and who wins by just getting the most right in general. It's going to be 2 separate categories, and I'm sure some little. What do you guys think? Do we come up with a punishment for who gets last, or do we come up with a reward for who gets first?
We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
TBD.
Yeah, but for that, thank you for anyone who's listening. Sorry we missed last week, but looking forward to our Week 16 or Episode 6, which will be out next week. Thanks for sticking with us. If you want to find us on YouTube, we do record these videos. We're at the Fantasy Fools Pod. That's Fools with a Z. You can also find us on Spotify, Fantasy Fools Podcast. So please look us up, give us a subscribe, follow us. And we'll catch you next week. All right, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Peace, bro. All right.
Thanks for the listens. Not just me anymore.